So on July 2nd, second day of the battle, Confederate General Longstreet's troops were along this ridge, and actually where we're standing was Brigadier General William Barksdale's Mississippians as Mississippi Brigade, and he kept asking when he was going to be sent into battle, and he was getting impatient with the delay. And at 6 p.m. order came for his brigade, followed by Woodford's Georgia Brigade. They charged the Federals that were in the peach orchard that was down over that way, and we'll go over there and look back, and also the Sheffrey farm, which is the one over there. And they charged in with Barksdale in the lead, flowing white hair. He'd been in Congress before the war, a big advocate for states' rights, but in battle he led from the front, and they pushed the Federals back, quite collapsed, and he drove them to the Trossel farm, which is about 3/4 of a mile away, which I think that's that one over there, about that one. And the attack lost its momentum. I mean, can you imagine running full tilt, fighting 3/4 of a mile, and the Federals reinforcements showed up, and Barksdale was attempting to rally his men when he was riddled with bullets, and he died that night in a Union hospital. And what he said was to tell his wife that he'd been shot, but we fought like hell, and they certainly did. So the Confederate artillery and infantry occupied this ridge. Seminary Ridge is what it's called, and Seminary is just back that way, and through the second and third day of the battle. And on the first day, they're basically facing off with the Union forces on the other side. And so on the third day, let me save that. So this is the Virginia Memorial. That's Robert E. Lee on his horse Traveler, and below are a depiction of the people who joined the Confederate Army: a professional man, a mechanic, an artist, a boy, a businessman, a farmer, and a youth. Now the farmer could be my great-great-grandfather. He fought in Lee's army right through until the Battle of Gettysburg, and when they retreated from that battle to Appomattox, they went right by his farm. He was suffering from dysentery, as was a lot of Lee's army at the time, and so he just sort of did a quick fade to the farmhouse, and his family hid him under the floorboards for a couple days, and then called in. The only doctors that were around were the Union doctors, and the way my southern relatives tell me is that he would have been shot as a deserter, and or by the Union as a Confederate, but I don't know. I think by that time Appomattox had happened, and they were going home. But the Yankee doctor didn't. They dressed great-great-grandpa in a nightgown, and the Yankee doctor did not say a word about grandma's couple weeks worth of beard. So he was here somewhere, I'm sure. I just have not been able to trace down exactly where. So I get to these battles, anywhere Lee's army fought, I have a personal connection. I don't agree with what they were fighting for, but it's history. Hello YouTube. Today I'm continuing my little short series on the Battle of Gettysburg. This is going to be focused on day 2, which is July 2nd, 1863. Major parts of the battle happened on that day. No way is my this one going to be all inclusive of everything that happens here. There's lots of documentaries and videos, movies, books. Thousands of books have been written on this battle. So I'm not going to try to do that. I'm trying to give you just an overview of how it progressed and what happened. So let me pick you up and we'll start with day 2. Now if you remember from the previous video, day 1, the Confederates pushed the Union back through town and they occupied Cemetery Ridge Cemetery and Culp Hills, and to the little Round Top and Big Round Top, I think it was, but Round Tops are over there. Cemetery Ridge and Culp Hill over this way. Where we are is in McMillan Woods. The Confederates, as you can see, where they got the cannon positioned, this was the North Carolina artillery facing across this field, and the Union forces across the way. Now we're standing on Warfield Ridge, which was the end of Longstreet's lines. At the time, they were basically in sort of a fishhook, and on this end, the idea was Lee had reconnaissance done during the morning hours and decided to start a diversionary tactic down at the other end where we saw the artillery and so on facing the Union across those big open fields. And that was the diversionary tactic. The main attack was going to be here, and General Longstreet, which was Lee called him his warhorse, his men were tasked with going into what's known as the Devil's Den, which is that valley right there, Little Round Top and Big Round Top. They were the high ground of the area. They weren't really all that well defended as far as I could tell, and but it took Longstreet until 4 p.m. to maneuver his 15,000 troops out of sight of the Yankees that were on Little Round Top. And when they did come time to actually charge across all this and try to take those, the Yankees up on there had been reinforced and were able to repulse them. We're going to get up there and see what the view from up there was looking down at this way, but this was the end of the Confederate lines. Now we'll get over to the Yankee side of things. Now shout out to an old friend, James Cully, from Spencerport, New York. He was, last time I know, he was a reenactor. It was 20 years ago. I've lost track of him. But he portrayed a gentleman from Spencerport and was at this up here on Little Round Top. So if you know Cully, tell him I said hi and ask him about Little Round Top. He can probably tell you way more than you ever wanted to know. On July 2nd, 1863, this was a wheat field. Looks like they had wheat in here this summer too. But wheat was very tall, and around 4:30, this beautiful wheat field was turned into a whirlpool of death. This changed hands 6 times over the course of the rest of that day, and with the Confederates, let's see, the Confederates came from behind me and off to the left. The Union came from that way and off to the right. So converging across the wider spot of the field. By the end of the day, the Confederates had taken the peach orchard. That had collapsed, and more of their troops came in here, and the Union forces retreated towards Cemetery Ridge. Over 4,000 people, wounded and dead, were in this field by the end of that day, in like 2 hours. So on that day, on the 2nd, this was a peach orchard on through here, and it was the edge of the Union lines. They got Little Round Tops over there, the Devil's Den. So that's Big Round Top, and of course the Confederates were that way, coming across, and from that way. So yeah. So in case you wonder where the peach orchard is, there it is. So by the end of the 2nd day, Little Round Top was in Yankee hands. Big Round Top was actually occupied by Confederate troops, but they were driven off that night. This area, the Yankee troops were retreating back through. It looked like it was going to be a Confederate victory. There was wounded, retreating Federal troops coming through here. Meade rushed reinforcements to the area and hoping to prevent a rout, and Major General Winford Hancock directed the fresh Union troops to critical positions. So you got artillery to right and left of us, and this is where the marksmen, Union marksmen, were shot. Confederate General Barksdale, and there was nearly 20,000 dead laying out through here at the end of day 2. That's why they call it the Valley of Death, because Confederates over here facing off Union over there, and dead and wounded down through here, just crying for help in the dark. And how many of them just succumbed to their wounds because nobody wanted to go out there to get them. So that's the end of day 2 of the battle, and let's get going with day 3 on the next video. Okay, we're up on top of Little Round Top, Warfield Ridge. Longstreet's men are over there, stretching along that little white farmhouse. That's where we were, where the Mississippians were. And remember, that was the Seminary Ridge, and that's where all of the Confederates were. Union on this side. Union Army occupied this little round top, and you can imagine this was called the Valley of Death. That is the Devil's Den, and that's the slaughter pen. I mean, you look, you got, okay, there's rocks. Not enough rocks for 15,000 guys coming across here. And keep in mind, you know, we're up here on the high ground. Union sharpshooters is the rifles of the day with the scope. You could shoot, you know, snipers, sharpshooters, 1,000 yards. That's 500 yards away. So if you showed yourself, you could be shot from up here, or be up here and shot from down there. They hastily threw up a lot of breastworks along through here, a lot of rock. None of them remain, but they basically crawled around up here. A couple officers, one stood up, got shot. Another officer went to his aid, stood up, was shot, fell on top of the first one. So that's, the sharpshooters were a big thing here. And again, Little Round Top, if the Union hadn't have figured out what was going on and reinforced it, it would have fallen to the Confederacy, and they would have had a commanding view of the Union troops that were over there.
Jumped off the wagon and he spread out his ears. Brace yourselves and calm for your women. We will do what we please. If this is for your blood,